Okay, good morning everyone and thanks for joining us. My name is Orla, I'm Rubrik's Head of Marketing for Australia and New Zealand. Big welcome to you all, happy Friday. So this is Rubrik's Coffee Series, it's the 5th topic, Rubrik for Microsoft 365. I'm sure many of you saw or read the big announcement this week with Microsoft. I'll let Stephen go into that a little bit later, but super exciting things ahead for us. We are, just an FYI, we are running these coffee sessions every third Friday of the month. We're keeping them short and sweet, snackable content for 30 minutes. And before I hand you over to Stephen, who's going to be presenting today, I want to ensure that everyone keeps interactive, asks lots of questions. And to help you do that, we've got 2 $100 Dan Murphy vouchers to give away, which is always nice for lockdown. We'll choose the best 2 questions after our session and we'll arrange the sending of these to you via email later today. Please post the questions in the chat. Dale is also online and he's going to get to them. And Stephen can get to a few at the end if we have time. And for those of you who don't know Stephen, Stephen is a fellow Irishman. He comes with a wealth of experience in helping customers realize their cloud and digital transformation objectives, from physical infrastructure at Dell to advanced cloud workloads to Microsoft, cutting edge data management at Rubrik. Stephen has been involved in many projects that have enabled businesses to streamline and modernize their business processes and to empower employees to do more. In his spare time, Stephen likes the great Australian outdoors, camping, off-roading and hill walking. So enjoy the session. Thanks for joining us and over to you, Stephen.
Thank you, Orla, and thanks everybody for joining this morning. We've got a great turnout today, and I hope you get some benefit from our session, our coffee break this morning. What we will go through today is our offerings and our viewpoints on Microsoft 365. It's a hot topic for most of our customers, and no matter where you are on your Microsoft 365 journey, we've got some relevance to the conversation. And it's something that I find very interesting because no 2 customers are at that same point. You know, some people are still completely on-prem and haven't adopted any Microsoft 365 technologies, and that's becoming fewer and fewer, but there's still people in that position. And then there's everybody in between who's looking at various components in Microsoft 365 but haven't adopted everything just yet. So hopefully we can have a good conversation this morning and delve more deeply into why it's important to protect that data. Obviously, Microsoft give you great levels of protection with the platform itself, but sometimes you need to get a little bit extra for your organization, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So Orla mentioned we've got some exciting offers for you guys. So if you want to come and talk to us, we're very friendly. If you want to have a conversation with us at any stage, Orla will share the link. We've got it at the bottom there. And if you do want to join us for a 30-minute conversation, it costs nothing to talk to us, and what you can potentially get out of it is a pair of Nike trainers, so or a $200 Amazon voucher. So if you're interested in that, let us know after the session. Also, as Orla mentioned today, we're going to have a look at the 2 best questions. So if you've got something you need to ask, what we deem to be the 2 best questions today will get a $100 Dan Murphy's voucher. And whether you're a alcoholic drinker or not, Dan Murphy's have some great non-alcoholic options as well. So that's a really nice little voucher to set you up for the weekend. As Orla said, it'll make lockdown a little bit nicer to deal with. So this coffee break series, this is number 5 in the series. As you can see, we're talking today about Rubrik for Microsoft 365. And we've had some previous ones that you can see, and up until next year, we're going to be running these once a month, bite-sized conversations about some exciting technologies and problem-solving capabilities that we have. If you want to go back in time and look at some of these previous coffee breaks, we've also got those recorded as well, I think, Orla. So yeah, you can go back and look at those anytime. So big news for us this week, as Orla mentioned at the beginning, is a new partnership that we have with Microsoft. Now, we've always been partners with Microsoft. Everything that we do is normally has some sort of Microsoft component to it, whether it's protecting Microsoft Windows workloads on-prem, or as we're talking about today, looking at Microsoft 365 data protection. We've been very close to Microsoft all along. We're one of their leading partners globally in terms of our relationship, but we've taken it to the next level this week, where Microsoft has actually invested some dollars in Rubrik. So now we're actually part owned by Microsoft, and that's been a big step forward to us. What Microsoft really want to focus on is the same thing that we focus on at Rubrik quite often, which is ransomware. It's a massive topic for everybody at the minute. And I think everybody needs to ask the question, where is our organization at in terms of ransomware detection and recovering from ransomware attacks? And if you answer that question and say, we're fully protected and everything is great, I would say, well done, because it's a difficult statement to make. And I think like anything, like if we look back at antivirus or edge protection, we know that you're making your best effort to defend against it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're watertight. So what Microsoft and Rubrik have done is come together with a common goal, and that is to protect our customers from ransomware. So look out for more news in the coming weeks and months on this. We're very excited about it because it means that not only are we collaborating more closely with Microsoft, but our customers are also going to get more options for ransomware protection, which will be baked into the Azure platform and the Microsoft 365 platform in the future. So keep a close eye on that. I know I will be. So today we're looking at Microsoft 365 and securing that and protecting it. But what we'll do initially is just have a little look at the adoption of Microsoft 365. I'm a former Microsoft employee, and when I was at Microsoft, we were really focused on customers adopting Microsoft 365 technologies, trying to get them to move from those legacy on-prem platforms or perhaps other vendor platforms that just didn't really give employees optimization in terms of their productivity platform. And what we've seen since the COVID-19 pandemic is an acceleration of that, because most of us are now working remotely. The office is becoming less and less of a focus for businesses. And as a result of that, you'll see things like Teams adoption going through the roof. But for Microsoft, that's great news. Microsoft have seen an accelerated adoption of those services. And you can see here some figures around that. So Microsoft 365 is Microsoft's current sort of cash cow, it's fair to say, simply because it's the best productivity platform out there. That's my opinion, but it's also reflected in the usage of that platform. And here in Australia, we're leading the way in this. We're really punching way above our weight in terms of adoption for Microsoft 365. Like obviously the US is always going to be the biggest adopter of these technologies, and UK is always there and thereabouts as well. But Australia, considering our population, we've got 81,000 plus worldwide, sorry, Microsoft 365 users. That's massive. You know, that level of adoption, Microsoft could only have dreamed about that 2 years ago. And now we've seen that massive uptake. So Australia is definitely early adopters of technology, and we've seen that all through the last couple of decades in IT. So most of you will be aware that any cloud service, it's not just Microsoft 365, is based on a shared responsibility model. So what we want to get out of Microsoft 365 as customers is a platform that's highly available, that is well developed. It gives you all this capability in productivity. And you expect it to be switched on all the time. You expect Microsoft not to lose your data. And in that case, Microsoft excels, right? They've never lost customers' data. There's no documented occurrence of Microsoft actually losing customers' data, which is amazing. But that's not to say customers don't have responsibility or that customers haven't made mistakes themselves. So when there is a data loss in Microsoft 365, it's generally because of user error or some sort of malicious intent. So that's just, you know, that's the model. That's what it is. We all sign up to it. And I think there are some misconceptions out there sometimes about who's responsible for what. But Microsoft make it very clear in their service agreement about what you're responsible for as a customer. So it's just something that we all need to be mindful of, and we all need to keep an eye on it. So you can see with that, as I mentioned, with that Teams usage, taking Teams as an example, that's just grown exponentially in the last couple of years. The rate of uptake has leveled off a little bit, but that curve is still going to the top and to the right. You know, that's massive amounts of Teams usage and adoption. And if we think about those shared responsibilities again, there's been some surveys done on this, and generally a lot of customers come back and say, well, we don't need to worry about data protection in Microsoft 365 because Microsoft gives us that. And that's absolutely true. The issue, as I said, is when bad people do bad things, or when, like myself in the past, you make a mistake, you do something wrong, and that results in data loss for the organization. So, you know, almost 50% of people surveyed would say, oh, we just rely on Microsoft or other cloud providers to protect our data. So why would you need to bother with backup? As I touched on, Microsoft actually make that recommendation in the services agreement. You can look it up, it's online, or you've got your own services agreement with Microsoft. And the recommendation is if the services, the recovery options, the native recovery capabilities that you get with Microsoft 365, if they're not enough for your organization, then you need to look at a third-party application to back that up and to retain that data. So you can view that at any time, but Microsoft actually recommend that you do that. And you know, this is an example from public domain where somebody made a mistake at one of the big 4 consultancy firms, and it resulted in Teams conversations being deleted for the entire organization. And depending on the organization's dependency on that, that could be a massive data loss for the company. It doesn't mean that the data's left the organization, but it just means we can't get it back. And if we think about somebody like KPMG, that could mean a lot of conversations have been lost and forgotten forever, and that could affect their reputation, their productivity, their profitability. So it's a massive consideration for your organization. As I said, if that native tooling is not good enough, you need to look at something in third party. I won't go on too much about that. I think most people are sort of aware of that, but it's good to drive that home if you're trying to talk to your organization about why we need to back it up. So these are some of the things that we get from our customers in terms of pain points around managing data in Microsoft 365. So, you know, it can be complex. It can be difficult to recover data in Microsoft 365. It can take a long time, and with that comes a cost, right? So you've got people who are working on recovery for a number of days, and it can take quite a long time to get the results that you're looking for in terms of data recovery, and the security risks associated with that as well. So these are the challenges. So cost, complexity, and scalability. So if your organization is quite big, scaling out a data protection platform can be quite difficult from a technical perspective, and then it's expensive. You know, if your organization grows, you've got to buy more infrastructure to back it up. So it can be quite a costly and complex and non-scalable proposition. So we spoke about these native tools that come with Microsoft 365, and these tools are great, right? So in most cases, I'm an ordinary user in Microsoft 365. I've deleted an email, or I've deleted a file. Let's talk about email. So the good things that I have is the ability to go to the recycle bin. If I've deleted something, I've got 30 days in the recycle bin that I can go back and recover that email. In most cases, that's all you need. But is that good enough for the organization in terms of compliance with data management and data retention? In a lot of cases, especially for government or large organizations or regulated industries, that's not good enough. You can't rely on users to keep all of their emails forever. So that's why Microsoft give you the capability to have things like litigation hold and retention policies, so that all of the emails in the organization are retained in line with the requirements for that organization. What's not checked here is the native backup and recovery, because that's just not available in Microsoft 365 today. You know, Microsoft can't be all things to all people. So giving customers the ability to back everything up will increase their storage costs. Not everybody wants that. So Microsoft have decided they're going to partner with organizations like Rubrik to give that capability for native backup and recovery. It is a complex process. So if we think about recovering emails, there's a thing called eDiscovery, which is great. It gets if you've switched on litigation hold or retention policies, as an organization, you can go and recover emails. So you can keep them forever and go back and recover them. But that process is a little bit complex. I think it's fair to say that to our friends in Microsoft, that this is not designed as a backup and recovery tool. This is designed as a legal hold, as a compliance tool. It's not a backup. So if you want to recover, let's say, a single email from a mailbox from somebody who left the organization 5 years ago, that can be quite a complex task in going and discovering that email and then going and recovering it. So for that reason, if you're relying on those native tools, sometimes it can be costly because it takes time to do the recovery. If you've got a business critical request to recover data from Microsoft 365, doing it using that eDiscovery process, in some cases, and I've seen this, it can take a week depending on your service level agreement with Microsoft. And in some businesses, if you're waiting for a week to recover an email, that could be the difference between winning a court case or not, or winning a business deal or not. So it's a pretty important consideration for the business, not just from a compliance perspective, but also from making sure the business is profitable, meeting its objectives, all of that kind of stuff. So that's the why you need to back up, and these are in general terms why you need to do it. What we offer at Rubrik is a solution to protect that data and to make it easily recoverable and instantly recoverable. So I spoke about that scenario about the email that you want to recover from 5 years ago. How do we go about doing that? So we deliver a nice GUI, as you can see on the right-hand side, and I'll do a demo of this in a little while. We make it very easy to recover these items. It's not a complex process. There's a few steps to setting this up. They're not massive. We just need to talk to your Microsoft 365 environment and start backing up all the various objects and components in Microsoft 365. And once we do that, we just make it really, really simple to recover and manage that environment. So, three-step recoveries, I'll show you that. It's just a few clicks to get this data back very, very quickly. And because it's a SaaS offering, so this is completely SaaS. If you adopt this service from Rubrik, you don't need to buy servers on-prem. You don't need to have Azure or AWS resources running infrastructure. You just subscribe to the service and we'll take care of all of the compute and underlying infrastructure that's needed to run this. And because of that, what you get is scalability, as you would expect with any SaaS service. As your organization grows, we scale the solution on the back end to make it run as smoothly as possible and ensure that you meet your service level agreements and objectives to recover that data and protect it. So this is what it looks like. Polaris is our management platform, and this will be a lot clearer when I do the demo. But essentially, we establish a very secure connection between our platform and Microsoft 365. And from there, we set up a service level agreement. So you can have a number of tiers in a service level agreement. And you could say the management team's mailboxes need to be backed up 4 times a day. So we're going to put them in a gold level SLA, for example. So that's one thing that we look at. And then maybe you've got frontline workers and you only need to back them up once a day. You would set up an SLA to do that. So it's pretty straightforward in terms of setup. And then once you've done that, you set up your SLAs and we start backing up. It's as simple as that. From that point, then what you're doing is monitoring the environment to see if it's working correctly, and then potentially doing recoveries of mailboxes and other resources. And as I said, it's built for scale. So as you grow, this grows with you. So what's good about this is it's pure SaaS, right? So it's not a traditional architecture for backing up. So out there are other providers that give you the capability to back up Microsoft 365, and that's fine. But it comes with it some of the baggage of legacy backup platforms. So you have to run an infrastructure, you have to make sure that it's all patched. You have to ensure that it's operating efficiently. If it scales, you've got to buy more hardware, software potentially to make that happen. So it can be a complex undertaking with traditional architectures. But what we're offering, as I said, is that very simple connection between Microsoft 365 and our Polaris management platform. So what this looks like and smells like is software as a service. That's exactly what it is. So as I said, no on-prem infrastructure, no cloud infrastructure, IaaS infrastructure is required for this. You just subscribe, you connect, and then you're protected. So Rubrik Hosted is what we call this service. So it's hosted we've got two options, but generally what we recommend is that customers use our Azure subscription for this. But if you really wanted to, you could also use your own Azure subscription. So for some organizations, they will say, we can't allow this data to leave our sphere of management at any point. So we do give customers that capability. So it's still SaaS, but the underlying technology is running within your own Azure subscription. So that's what we call a Rubrik managed Azure account. So what you move from there is the traditional on-prem model to a pure cloud model. So some of the requirements that we need for that are things like Azure Global Admin Access, because we're doing things like running Kubernetes services on the back end. We're running VMs, we're spinning things up and down that you're abstracted from, but it's running in your Azure environment. So that's the sort of before state in terms of us running the Microsoft 365 hosted solution in your Azure tenant. But the other option is there where you run it in our Azure tenant. So we give you the capability just to abstract completely from it, and you just pay a subscription per mailbox or per Microsoft 365 user to actually go and use this environment. Time is moving on quickly. Dale, do we have any questions at this stage or anything we need to look at?
I've been answering them online, so all good.
I see that.
Everyone just keep posting questions in the Q&A in the chat, and I'll get to them. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, so what we offer is the ability to try and buy this software. So if you're unsure about it, I certainly like to try things out before I buy them if possible. So we give you the option to connect to your Microsoft 365 environment with our Polaris platform and start backing up and restoring and testing it. So we've got a full-featured trial process. So if you're interested in that, what we can do is give you a 30-day trial for it. It's very quick and easy to set up. I've done it myself. I can tell you, as long as you've got the credentials to access the Microsoft 365 environment, it's very, very quick and easy. And because it's SaaS, you don't need access to your own Azure tenant. You can just run it as a pretty straightforward trial. There is a 500 user maximum for that, so that's just something to note. Cool. So just to summarize that piece, so it's unified management, no maintenance because it's SaaS, and we're protecting Exchange Online, OneDrive, SharePoint, and Teams data today, and I'll show you those in a couple of seconds. It's very simple. Again, you'll see that in the demo when I go and do it. You don't need training to do this. You just need to know some basic concepts, and once you do that, you can recover data very quickly and very easily. And as I said, it's 100% SaaS, so it's running in our Azure tenancy or in yours, but it's still a SaaS offering. You don't need to worry about scaling or managing the underlying infrastructure for that. Cool. So enough chat. Let's go and have a look at the demo and see what it looks like. So this is the landing page for Microsoft 365 management, and in this case, we're connected to a demo environment for Microsoft 365, but it's fully functional. And here you'll see all of the things that you would want in terms of the management interface. You can see what's protected, what's not protected. We can see there's a lot of green, but there's a little bit of red in this environment, which means some items have not been backed up in the last few days. So some of our engineering team I think our engineering team have been making some changes recently, which has resulted in some objects getting moved around. So we can see there's some failures in the last couple of days. But by and large, most of this organization is green. So you can see at a glance what's working, what isn't, which is really what you want in the management interface. We can also see the status of Microsoft 365 itself. So you can see if there's any issues, if there's any services that aren't working, we'll notify you of that in this particular area. Moving on very quickly, what we can do here is enter the demo environment, and we can see straight away we've got the ability to recover mailboxes or OneDrive items for individual users. So what we can do is maybe check Adam as an example and recover some email for Adam. So you've got a couple of options here. You can look at a particular date. We can see on the 18th, there's one snapshot available for Adam's mailbox. What I can do is in a couple of clicks, just go and recover Adam. I can recover Adam's entire mailbox or start drilling into his mailbox, looking for specific items. So if I look at something like his inbox, I can do a search on that. So if we say, let's search for an email with power in the title, here we can see your free Power BI invoice. That's the email I want to recover. I click on next. I've got the option to restore it back into his mailbox or restore it somewhere else. In this case, we'll send it to someone else just to be a bit different. This could be something like a legal request. So let's send it to Chris, recover, and that's it. 3 clicks and that particular mail has been recovered. We've also got some advanced search capabilities as well. So you can search for an email subject, but if you pull it down, you can also put from address to address and date ranges in there as well. So if you want to be really specific about the email that you're looking for, that's the way to do it. OneDrive is the same process, right? So we can pick Adam again, and we can start drilling in there. We can look at some recovery options for Adam's OneDrive folder. We can navigate through it. So the look and feel, as you can see, is exactly the same for all of those services. So OneDrive, Exchange, SharePoint, and Teams are exactly the same processes for recovery. So Adam doesn't have any items in his OneDrive, so that's fine. What I'll touch on very briefly, because we've only got a couple of minutes left, is that SLA domain that I mentioned earlier on. So what you could do is have just a single SLA domain and throw everybody into that SLA domain, but quite often organizations want to categorize things a little bit differently. So as I said, for maybe the management team, you would set up a gold SLA and you would add the Microsoft 365 objects into that SLA. So you could say something like the management team and the engineering team need to be in the gold tier. So let's put those objects in there. And if you're subscribing to other Rubrik services like AWS or Azure or VMware on-prem or whatever it might be, you can actually add those objects to that same SLA. So if a business critical application includes Microsoft 365 components, plus maybe Azure, plus a little bit of AWS, plus some on-prem components, you can put them all into this single SLA and hey presto, they're all protected at the same level. And we can see the frequencies and retention for that. I can edit those. I can say, I want to take a snapshot of this environment every 2 hours and keep it for 12 years. It's completely flexible on that front. So that's bringing us very close to time. Do we have any outstanding questions that we need to respond to? Anybody on the line who'd like to come off mute and ask a question, you're welcome to do so. I know, Dale, you've been answering a lot of those questions in chat. So
yeah, I'm answering a lot of the questions in chat. Also, what I will do is I'll take all of those questions that we've had and we'll summarize them and send them out as well. So I appreciate there's a lot of questions in there and really good ones as well. So
yeah, we're looking forward to going through those questions and picking out the 2 best ones for the day. So the couple of Dan Murphy's vouchers are going to be on the way to those two question askers later on today. So that sort of wraps it up. As we said, it's bite size. It's very quick what we've gone through today. So appreciate that it's not all encompassing. But you know, if you do need to talk to us, schedule one of those 30-minute meetings, and you could get a pair of Nike trainers out of that, or a $200 voucher, whichever is your preference. And as I said, we're very friendly. It'll be a good conversation. We're not pushing a big sales agenda here. What we want to do is just educate our customers into why they need to back up and why we do it really well. So if you're willing to have that conversation with us, we're very happy to do that. So I think that will conclude our session today. As I said, we'll go through some of those questions and we'll respond individually if we can't get to you today. And we will see you on the next coffee break next month. I'm looking forward to talking to you then.